Join me, friends, for a spooky review. Today we discuss the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. So the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo was about Scooby and Shaggy and Daphne, no Fred and Velma for whatever reason, discovering the Chest of Demons, and opening it releases 13 ghosts that they have to recapture. They're guided by Vincent Von Ghoul, voiced by the late great Vincent Price, and they're also joined by a couple other characters. There's Flim Flam, who's this kid who's kind of a con artist, and also Scrappy-Doo. The show stands out among all the other Scooby-Doo shows because the ghosts were real and not just some weirdo in a costume like it's always been before. You know, I always found it funny that Zombie Island kind of sold itself on the idea that this time the monsters are real when they've been real before. I mean, there was 13 Ghosts, and then there was like Ghoul School, and the Reluctant Werewolf, and the Boo Brothers, and I think there were even episodes here and there from all the other series where they ran into something weird and unusual that they couldn't explain, and I mean, they met the Addams Family, for God's sake. I mean, that's as weird as it gets. At the time, the show didn't do very well, but over the years it has amassed a bit of a cult fan following, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a little bit of a nostalgic soft spot for it. However, this was a Hanna-Barbera series, and therefore it was left unfinished, of course. Even though there were 13 episodes, only 12 of the ghosts were ever caught. But fast forward to 2019 when it was announced that the next Scooby-Doo movie was actually going to finish the series. And that brings us to The Curse of the 13th Ghost. The cast consists of the current Scooby-Doo voice cast, which is Matthew Lillard, Grey Griffin, Kate Micucci, and of course Frank Welker, still voicing the characters after all these years. Now, unfortunately, as I said before, Vincent Price has left us some time ago, but they got the best possible replacement for him with Maurice LaMarche. Oh, and fun fact about Matthew Lillard, he was actually in a movie called 13 Ghosts, and it was because of that movie that landed him the role as Shaggy in the live-action Scooby-Doo movies. It all comes together. The movie actually has a very strong opening, and it actually gives us a little bit of insight to Vincent Von Ghoul's character and expands him a little bit, which I thought was really cool. Then we cut to Mystery Inc., who have actually botched a mystery. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before, and it actually was kind of shocking. So because of that, they decide to quit solving mysteries and are selling off a lot of their mystery-solving stuff when they stumble upon the crystal ball used to communicate with Vincent, and he tells them that he's finally found the 13th ghost. So they meet up with Vincent at his creepy house, and then they head off to the Himalayas, which is where they first found the Chest of Demons, to capture the 13th ghost once and for all. And along the way, they make a lot of fun references to the original series, like Shaggy being a pilot. Yeah, I bet a lot of people didn't know he can fly a plane. And they also do a lot of those fun gags where him and Scooby dress up as a character and try and trick the demon, but ultimately it doesn't work in the end, and it's kind of funny, I guess. When they get to the Himalayas, they actually meet Flim Flam, who's grown up, apparently, which raises all kinds of questions about how old the characters are. I mean, they actually make reference to the fact that the Scooby Gang are going to be 18 soon, so I assume they're 17, but what about Flim Flam? He looks about the same age, but in the original series he was like a kid. I think they're also implying that 13 Ghosts might be a prequel to like all of the Scooby-Doo series, because they implied that the reason why Shaggy and Scooby are afraid of all the, bad guys that they confront because they're dressed up like monsters is because they've actually faced real-life ghosts in the past. And they do try to explain why Velma and Fred were not part of that series, although it was more of a passing comment, and it was honestly kind of a cop-out. Although that is the least of our problems. For starters, I don't like how they portrayed Fred in this movie. I mean, I get why he's like that, because in 13 Ghosts, Daphne was the leader of the team, and now that she's kind of taken charge again, he feels like useless, I suppose, and Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but then he starts doing a bunch of like weird and embarrassing things, and it was just very cringeworthy. And then Velma, the skeptical one, who's the brains of the team, is now having her mind blown by the fact that ghosts might be real. And that was a really cool thing, but then they ruin it. Okay, so now I have to spoil this movie because there's a lot we need to talk about here. See, this movie was sold on the fact that it was going to finish off the 13 Ghosts series. And, well, it did that, but spoilers, apparently everything in 13 Ghosts didn't actually happen. See, here's the thing about Scooby-Doo. Aside from a couple of exceptions like 13 Ghosts and all the other things I mentioned before, it has operated on a simple principle. The monsters and the ghosts and everything else they run into are not real. It's always some weirdo in an outfit trying to scare away people so they can dig for gold or get insurance money or whatever nonsense they were doing. In my opinion, it's one of the things that has kept the series alive all these years. And this is something that the series has always been praised for because it's a cartoon show that teaches kids that there's always a logical explanation. So I get why they tried to do this. Unfortunately, they did it in like the worst way possible because there were a lot of things that didn't make a whole lot of sense. There was a subplot about the 13th ghost being the spirit of Vincent von Ghoul's ancestor or something like that. And they just kind of dropped that on us towards the end of the movie, and it felt like just a plot twist that didn't need to happen. Like, they tried to put it in for shock value or whatever, probably, but it just didn't need to be part of this. They could have just been a ghost, you know? They also established that Vincent is not able to use the magic that he's always had in the series for whatever reason. Because, you know, apparently we can't have magic in Scooby-Doo. So how the hell did he communicate with them through the crystal ball? What is that, just an elaborate phone you can buy at a store? But apparently nothing in the 13 Ghosts happened anyway, and the reason Velma gives is it was a mass hallucination brought upon by the high elevations of the Himalayas. See, here's the thing. In 13 Ghosts, they actually traveled to other places. They didn't just stay in the Himalayas. So are they also implying that the whole thing was just a hallucination? Like they were at the Himalayas and then they hallucinated like however long they spent trying to track down the ghosts? I mean, this doesn't make any sense. And now I'm starting to question whether or not the people working on this movie actually watched the series. Or if they just read the Wikipedia page. Again, I get why they tried to do this, but, you know, I think I can accept the fact that ghosts exist in Scooby-Doo. I mean, the series is about a talking dog and his best friend that can make a sandwich the size of his own head and then unhinge his jaw to eat it. I can suspend my disbelief a little bit. Or if they did want to just retcon the whole thing and say it didn't happen, then they did it in probably the most clumsy way possible. And like I said, the movie had a very strong start, and then it just slowly started to unravel, and it was just a massive disappointment. And I know 13 Ghosts wasn't a great series. In fact, you really look at it now, it's not very good. But it would have been nice if they finished it and maybe give it a little bit of redemption at the very least. So all in all, this movie was not the movie that was sold to us, and it was a massive disappointment. Hey, you know, I just realized something. The 13 Ghosts series actually had some more characters. Like, there were these two comic relief ghost characters that were guarding the chest. Like, I guess they don't exist anymore, I suppose, and... Wait a minute. There's no Scrappy-Doo. Scrappy-Doo is not in this movie. In fact, Flim Flam mentioned him to Velma, and she didn't even know who he was. Wait a minute. Did this movie retcon Scrappy-Doo out of existence? You know what? I take it all back. This is the best movie ever. But that's all I got for Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of it. My name is Rob, and have a wonderful day.